setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. Glad you have joined me this very fine day. Wherever you may be, I hope it's a fine day. Here in Palm Beach, Florida, it's a very fine day. It's a beautiful day. So our conversation is going to be kind of a wrap-up of the week and everything that I've been thinking about and probably need to talk about. So we're going to wrap it up. I'll be right back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
This week went by really fast. At least it did for me. One, I was so busy. I was trying to finish up on my continuing education hours for my tax course. And for me to be able to sign on tax returns, I need to take it every year in the state of California. And it went really fast because one, the course I took this year was totally different what I've taken in the past years. I usually take 2 courses, and I will be taking another one in the next in November, early weeks of November. But this year, because I've had to deal with California taxation issues and having to know all about the cannabis rules and everything else, I tell you, it's I never thought in all my years of life that I would never be dealing with weed taxes, marijuana, Mary Jane, whatever you want to call it. I never ever thought that it would be coming back to me and I would have to be preparing tax returns and figuring the sales and use tax and everything else out on marijuana. It's an amazing world that we're living in because things change so quickly. I feel, and this is my gut feeling, is that the marijuana issue in California is probably going to become worse because there's no one over there that does not have an addictive personality. They get addicted so quickly. If you look at the homeless situation, the majority of those people on homeless have mental health issues and they have drug issues. And so I think California is just going to make it worse. I saw a statistic I think last year was San Francisco, the city of San Francisco, that the majority of the DUIs now were from marijuana. The people that they were booking into jail were from DUIs from marijuana. So now we have alcohol and now we have marijuana that we have to deal with. Now, I'm kind of out on the game on this, I guess, because I do know that marijuana in some cases have helped people with their sickness that they have, with cancer, with other diseases. It has helped them. So I think instead of legalizing it for everybody, we should probably think about, okay, what is it good for? And then legalize it for what it's good for. If we are going to see an impact on DUIs in the state of California or for any state that legalizes marijuana, then we have an issue and we have to be very concerned about that issue. Because we don't want the law creating a larger issue for the residents of the state or the communities. So we have to look at that. And I think that we'll probably see, in California, I have the sneaking suspicion, because everybody's out on the road, that we're going to see a higher case in DUIs. I haven't looked at the statistics for a year now. I should look at it again and see exactly where we stand on that. But we have such a high homeless and mental health issue and drug issue on the streets now. People camping about wherever they can find a spot and pitching a tent. There is a problem. So we need to be very, very careful and very cognizant that we could be developing a larger problem than what's already there. So that was one of my issues on the tax side, is how marijuana in the state of California now is a tax issue on reporting. So, getting back to my point, it was a short week for me because I was so involved in so many different things. Once you pass the test, then you have to get signed up within all of the Fed in the IRS and also the state, and get all of your continuing education scores up, and make sure that you have your bonding in place and everything else that you have to do to prepare taxes in the state of California. California and New York are the only states that are recognized by the Internal Revenue Service for continuing education, and tax preparers in the state of California have a higher standing than the remainder of the tax preparers in the rest of the United States, because you have to do so much in order to prepare taxes in those two states. You have to be licensed in those states, which is good. I mean, that's a good standing. The IRS decided a few years back, hey, we're going to have all tax preparers become licensed to practice before the Internal Revenue Service. However, that was shot down in the Supreme Court, and they got knocked out. And those who went and got all those certifications, the certification didn't mean anything after the courts got involved. But I think that every state should have its own licensing requirements. Because you think that under the Simplification Act that taxes got easier. No. It got harder. Harder and harder. So don't think that tax simplification made it easier for anybody, because it really made it more complicated. And I expect that a lot of you know that, based upon the comments that I've gotten of how you've owed last year in 2018. Just one of those things. So if you haven't listened, you've got 3 more months. You got the rest of October, November, December. If you need to adjust your W-2 wages, do it. If you need to hold a little bit more out, do it, because you don't want to come to the end. So and owe taxes. So what I suggest that you do, sit down with your tax practitioner or your CPA or whoever prepares your tax return and say, listen, this is where I stand right now. Take your wage statement, your paycheck stub, take it into your account, say, this is where I stand at the moment, this is what I expect for over the next 2.5 months, and estimate what you need to do on your payroll taxes. Now, I'm hopeful that you did it last year, but you know tax rates change every single year. So if you haven't done it, do it. I told my clients last year, and I did this on the podcast too, go out and do it, but no one did it. They came and said, I owe taxes. Well, why didn't you change? Because you know you're going to lose some things on itemized deductions. Why didn't you change your payroll? Or why didn't you adjust your not your 401k, but your retirement plans in the office so that you had more taken out and it would lower your income? But no, your taxable income. So no, you didn't do it. You've got some time. You've got a little bit of October, November, and December. Sit down, call your tax accountant, fax it in, email it to him, whatever you need to do so that you have a good feeling of where you stand at the end of the year. Now, I've warned you about this. So if you go to your tax accountant and complain, it's your fault. It is your fault. It's not your tax accountant's responsibility to adjust your W-2 wage tax. It's your responsibility. So what else happened over this week? This week has been kind of a controversial week politically, hasn't it? In the Congress, we have absolutely nothing being done. In fact, I heard a statistic the other day that said the Congress has issued more subpoenas than they have passed any legislation coming out of the Congress. Now that is a bad situation. If we have nothing happening in Congress, we are wasting our tax dollars. So, if you want to pay more taxes into the federal government, go right ahead, because it's just going to go to waste. Because Congress is doing nothing. So we need to do what is called accountability. And we need to hold those members of Congress who are doing nothing accountable. We have a trade deal that needs to go through that will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. We have infrastructure legislation that needs to go through. We have all kinds of stuff that needs to get done, but it's not being done because my tax dollars and your tax dollars are being spent issuing subpoenas. And then there's going to be court battles on some of those subpoenas, and it's just going to go on and on and on. So, we as Americans have got to hold our representatives accountable for the non-action and the non-work that they're being produced. And now they want a raise. There are members of Congress saying we're not getting paid enough, we want a raise. How stupid is that? They know that they're not doing anything. They're not accomplishing anything. They're so focused on this impeachment thing, which will never go anywhere because once it gets to the Senate, it's dead on arrival. But it's all politics. So politics has taken over the ability to accomplish things for the American people, to get things done. It's very sad. Now, there's one thing I wanted to talk to you about also. Remember, this is a wrap-up, so I'm going over the things that happened to me this week that I noticed and weigh heavily upon me. Now, a part of what I do just for fun, because I love doing it, is I have what is called the Credentials of Ministry, and I perform weddings. And I was looking over all of the people have sent in requests for me to perform weddings, and they send it in to me. I look it over. And I was so surprised that 85% of the people that wanted me to give them an estimate on how much it would cost for me to do their wedding, they wanted a non-religious wedding. They did not want God mentioned in the wedding. 85%. Can you imagine starting out your marriage without any type of spirituality to set a guidance for you to live your lives together? So I'm very shocked that there are more and more people asking for non-denominational, non-God-like wedding ceremonies. And that is the time where you begin your time. That's where you sit down with a marriage officiant or with a minister or a reverend or a priest, and you have your preliminary meetings and you talk about religion in your marriage, and you talk about your finances, and you talk about debt, and you talk what are you planning for children and everything else, so that everybody's on the same page. But when you decide to say, I do not want God in my marriage at all at the very beginning, where you say, I do, and I promise, you need to have some spirituality built into that religion. That's how I feel. Because spirituality plays an important part in how you begin your lives and how you live your lives together. I've seen it happen so many times where disputes happen because they didn't have any guidance on what road to take, what is right and what is wrong. How to raise their children, how to agree upon what sets of morals and religious and spiritual guidance that they will provide their own children once they have children in their life. If they don't have an understanding at the very beginning what their spirituality is at the beginning of their marriage, there's going to be issues where they're going to go on the wrong path at some point in time because they don't have that spiritual compass to guide them. So that was really interesting to me, that 85% of the individuals that I have responded to requests for me to tell them how much it was going to cost to perform the marriage, that 85% of them did not want to have God at the very beginning of their life, at the beginning of when they say, I do. When you say I do, you're taking on a lot of responsibility. And if you don't have that spiritual path to go down, you're going to stumble. And when you have a spiritual connection together through God or whatever mechanism, religious belief that you have, if you're Catholic, if you're Buddhist, if you're Episcopalian, if you're Seventh-day Adventist, if you don't have that spiritual connection together, there will be bumps and there will be stumbling. That's just a fact of life. 85%, can you imagine? 85%. So I would suggest that if you're going to get married, that you talk about those things with the individual who is going to perform your marriage. I have 2 meetings prior to, 2 one-hour meetings prior to the ceremony. And we talk about all these things, and we look at their finances. You know, debt creates more stress upon a relationship than anything else. Debt. And if you're coming into a marriage with a lot of debt, expect to stumble also. Some of you are getting married and you have college debt. You've got car debt. You may even have a house debt. You may have a debt starting a business. You may have debt. Both of you may have debt. So now you're doubling the debt. What do you think a lot of your conversations are going to be about when you're driving in the car? It's going to be about debt. How are we going to make these payments? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? If you don't have the financial strength, you're going to have those conversations. And the majority of them are not going to be very happy conversations. I have people come into my office. You know, when you're preparing tax returns, as long as I have, you become a counselor. You become a mediator, which I am. I'm a certified mediator. But you become a mediator between couples. And there have been times, and I tell you, this is when it becomes really sad. I have had couples on several occasions sitting in front of me, not knowing that their spouse had another bank account, had another charge card. The spouse was adding up more debt, and the other spouse did not know anything about it. And all of a sudden, they were getting notices, and they said, well, I don't know anything about this. How am I going to do this? I can't even make my tax payments, and now I've got more debt. So, at the very beginning, when you're sitting down, planning out to say, I do, make sure you sit down with somebody and go through your finances. Make sure that you're both on the same page as to what you're going to do to pay down this debt. Debt is an evil thing. I say that over and over and over. Debt is evil. So you have to talk about it prior to you saying, I do. In fact, you should probably not even say, I do, until you've taken care of that debt considerably. The worst conversation that anybody can ever have are the mean tones that come out of discussing the finances that are causing so much stress upon both of you. Because at that point in time, you're living from paycheck to paycheck to pay that debt. But if you're both on the same page, you both have a plan of action to address how you're going to pay that debt, your conversations are going to be together and not separated. Because you both agreed to a plan on how you're going to address that. And let me tell you, if you're sitting down preparing your budgets as a married couple, whoever is strongest at that point, stop and don't do it alone. Sit down with your spouse, both spouses together at the dinner table, at a coffee shop, wherever you can go. And you guys make the decisions together. If you stray from that, the person who is creating the budget is going to be the mean guy. He's always going to be seen as the mean person in the relationship because controlling the strings of finances. But if you are working on it together, month after month after month, you become a team at it, and you begin to understand, you both understand in which direction you need to go, and you agree together. It's not just a one-sided decision. So at the very beginning of your relationship, to all of you people considering to become married, make sure that you have a plan of action that you both have sat down and discussed, that you both have agreed to, and that you both have responsibility to fulfill. That is it for this week. I'll be back tomorrow. If you have any comments or concerns, or if you need help, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. And we'll talk about whatever you need to talk about, or if you have questions, or if you just want to leave me a comment, I'll be more than happy to get it. Everybody go out and have a great day. This is Mike Lodge. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.